Okay, so I wanted to demonstrate an issue I've had charging battery packs and kind of what I'm doing to resolve that. And I'm kind of learning along the way, which is the best way to do it. We're trying to do something practical. We've seen an issue and then we've got to work out the solution to that and see how that works. And it's so much easier to learn stuff when there's a practical application. So I'm trying to charge a battery pack. It's Prius cells. They're sort of 6 cells within one cell. They're kind of like a 6S. Cell or module, whatever you want to call it, and I've put 6 of them together, so we've got 36S. Anyway, we've got some batteries, right, and we've got a power supply, and that power supply, when it focuses, there you go, is 54 volts. So it's a nice higher voltage than that, 740 milliamps, so quite a good match for the batteries that are in there. I was looking for about 1/10 of the capacity, so like C divided by 10 charging, but this is as close as I can find, and this is pretty good, to be fair. So I'm going to plug this in, I'm going to put this across the battery, I'm going to see what happens. So I've got a DC clamp meter here. It's not mega accurate, but it's pretty good. That is just a little bit of ghost kind of misreading. It is just magnetic, so, but it's kind of designed for, like, you know, 100 amps or 1000 amps or whatever. So I'm just connecting this straight to the battery connector. So I'm going to pop this on and we'll see what happens. So what's happening is the battery is trying to grab all the current really fast. So what you can see is it jumps up to about an amp, sometimes a bit less, and then it goes back down again. And what is happening? So this is a switch mode power supply. If we had a coil, you know, the old chunky brick coil power supplies, one of the old style fat ones that had a really bad voltage output, it would just give its constant current, and the voltage would suffer, basically. So they were really good for battery charging. But this is a switch mode power supply, which is trying to do a really good job at maintaining a voltage, and what the battery's trying to do is suck all the power out of it really fast. And what's effectively happening is the power supply is turning on, the battery is taking all the current because there's a massive voltage drop, sort of, well, voltage difference, we should say. So the battery's stealing all the current, and then the charger's going, whoa, over current, I can't maintain the voltage, and it's shutting down. So that charger is cycling on and off, and that's what you can see there on the clamp meter. And that's why kind of modern switch mode power supplies are not very good at charging batteries, and it's kind of annoying. Because I want to charge this. The old charger for this quad bike, because it's a little kid's quad thing, is set up for lead acid batteries, and it's like a smart charger, and it kind of detects the voltage and it starts charging and then it stops. But the voltage of these is different, it's a higher voltage and it doesn't drop as much, so it thinks these are falling when they're flat, so it's no good. So we've got to have a new charger for this, but that's obviously not working. So I'm just going to unplug that. So what do we do? So I've kind of been looking into current limiting resistors. It's not something I know a lot about, which is cool because we can kind of learn. So I used an online resistor calculator while I looked it up, and then I worked out, just a bit of Googling, that it's basically the voltage divided by the current you want, which gave me about 70, 80 ohms, depending on whether you use the voltage of the power supply or the voltage of the battery or whatever. So I went in my resistor thing and I got a 68 ohm resistor. Okay, so what we want to happen is we want a constant charge rate. We want to just, you know, it's like the canal gates are being opened without the lock being emptied. You know, all the water's just flooding through, and I guess in that analogy it's banging the canal gates shut, because of just the amount of rush current. So we need to slow it down. So I'm just going to hook this resistor on. Now I'm fully aware that this is like a 1/4 watt resistor, so although the resistance is good, the current the current carrying, sorry, that's my multimeter, the current carrying capability of this resistor is in no way suited to this job. But just as a proof of concept, I want to know whether I'm on the right lines or not. So I'm just going to tag this in here. I've unplugged the power supply for a second, so that's just discharging. Right, so I'm just going to plug the power supply in, and now we've got a constant rate. Now what's obviously going to happen is that resistor is going to die a death very quickly because the battery's trying to pull a massive current through it. It's trying to do its job, you know, the little engine that could, and it's basically going to start smoking. But we are getting there. Oh yeah, smoke. Don't know if you can see that. Oh yeah, it's starting to smoke. And in a second, that will basically just burn. But it's proved the point that we're getting somewhere. That works a lot better. We've got about 170, 180 milliamps. I think I'm going to plug that because it doesn't smell that good, weirdly. But just to prove how to kill resistors. Yeah, no, just to prove that we're on the right line. We've got somewhere. Now that, like 170 milliamps is kind of low. I'm looking for about 500 would be perfect. Half an amp would be perfect because that's actually, I could do a constant, I could leave it on charge forever basically, and these cells will effectively balance because they can recombine. It generates gas when you overcharge them, and it can recombine that gas up to a rate of 1/10 of the capacity, the charge rate. And these were originally 6.5 amp hours. They're old cells from an old that have been taken out of a car because they're not good enough for the car. The car was moaning about it, but in this scenario good. But let's say they're 5 amp hours now. Yeah, 500 milliamps would be perfect. Basically, I could just leave it overnight. It would effectively balance because if some were low, the others would just recombine, you know, do all that gassing and all that. So that's a bit better. But I've been in the drawer and thought, right, can we test this a bit better? Because I don't know if what's reducing the charge rate is the current carrying, the power carrying capacity of the resistor. The fact that it's like a quarter watt resistor, it can't provide the juice. So that's 68 ohms. So then I thought, what am I going to do next? So I've got my little box of resistors. So I've got 680 ohm resistors and I've got 10 of them. So if you put resistors in parallel, you give it more routes. So if you put two in parallel, it halves the resistance because there's 2 routes to go. So I've got resistors that are 10 times the resistance, and I've got 10 of them in parallel. So what's going to happen next? And I want to basically get to the point where I can order the correct resistor. It's unplugged at the minute. And is that in there? I think that's in there. Yeah, and but I not have to order like 5 of them. We want to actually do some testing and some analysis and work out what we got. So we're going to plug that in. So we've still got 680 ohms, sorry, we've still got 68 ohms, but we're just letting it have a lot more power. There's effectively like 5 watts of capability there. The interesting thing that happens is we still get about 160, 170 milliamps. I don't know if it's because to do the calculation for these, I should have used the battery voltage instead of the supply voltage, or vice versa, or whatever. But we can do a little bit more testing now because that's not going to set on fire at a rapid rate of knots. So let's just verify what's actually happening here. So we've got my multimeter, that's stable. So we've achieved stable charging with a switch mode power supply, which is quite nice. Right, now I've got this meter's got these horrible fat leads. I need to get some other ones. Right, so we're just going to double check what's happening whilst we just kind of monitor that it's definitely actually charging, albeit a bit slowly. It is interesting that it's still charging at the same rate as with the other one, and that makes me think that these are too high. But I've got like a little one of those Amazon multi-packs of resistors, so we can go and choose some different ones. So if we look at the voltage from the charger, so we've got 53 volts out of the charger, and then if we go to the battery side, we've got something, but it's kind of hard because everything's waving around. Let's go for that side. This is obviously coming out, isn't it? They are getting warm, I can tell you that. They're not. This is kind of hard with one hand. Right, now that's fallen down. This is going really well. Right, let's just move this out a bit. Right. So let's start again. So our battery side, 53, and if we go to the the supply side, charger side, 53, and on the other side 43. So that's actually working really nicely. But likely I need I think I just jiggled it a second, a little bit, didn't I? Likely I need lower resistors, so I need to do some more calculating. This is a tiny little bit warm, but not a lot. So they're kind of coping with that. I mean, yeah, it's probably not them limiting it, because it was very similar with the other one. So we've got the same resistance. So likely I need a lower resistance then. But yeah, interesting. I've never really cracked in my head how to charge batteries slower. Even if you've got battery charging that's too fast, which is one of the things I have. I want a charger that I've got for like power tools. It's designed to charge in 2 hours. I don't want it to do that because I've got 3 batteries and I don't want to kill them. I want them to last. And the answer with that is current limiting resistors, but they've got to be matched to the circuit that they're going into. So quite interesting. It is charging. Obviously that's really slow. But what I'm probably going to do next is I'm going to grab some other resistors. So get 10 of a different, lower resistance, and see what happens basically until I can get a working scenario that I like. And then I'll get a nice big fat resistor that I know is not going to overheat when I leave it on all night. But yeah, just thought that was interesting really. Subject I really sort of struggled to get into, not had a practical application. Sort of thought I want this battery charger to charge slower, but I'm not sure how to do it. But now I've actually found a practical application where I need to do it. And I've also got a little multi-pack of resistors that I bought for another job, which is really cool. So that works. It's stable. That is definitely the way to get switch mode power supplies, which will go into a sort of low voltage or overcurrent scenario like that and just cycle on and off. And I've had it before. I've even bought what are called chargers, and you put them on and they don't charge because the people selling them don't understand that when you've got quite a low battery, the charger's going to go into this mode where it goes over current or under voltage or whatever. It can't supply what's being requested, and it shuts down, and then it starts back up again. It just cycles over, and the battery just never charges because it just gets a tiny little bit of current, and then stops again. So yeah, that is charging. It's a bit slow, but we're making progress. So yeah, I'm going to play with some other resistors, get this properly worked out. And yeah, I just thought that was interesting. It's always good to learn. It's so much easier to learn with a practical application, like I say. I think I'm just going to leave that, to be honest. Let's see how warm it's getting. That's okay actually. Well, it's hot to the touch, but it's not burning. So yeah, so sort of, yeah, I mean on your fingers, maybe about 40 degrees or something like that. Yeah, I'd love to get a thermal camera, but I haven't at the minute. But yeah, cool. I hope that's useful anyway. I've learned something. And yeah, all right, enjoy. Catch you later. Okay, just a little update. Look at this, about 0.5 amp. There you go, literally 0.5 amp. So I did some calculations, and so so basically to work out current limiting resistor, you do the voltage. You'd usually take off the voltage drop of the item that you're charging. So like, let's say it was a resistor current limiting, an LED current limiting resistor for an LED. You'd do like, there's a 5 volt supply voltage, there's a 2 volt drop across the LED. So you do 3 volts and divide that by the resistance that you want, basically. So I played around with the figures, basically just telling it I want more current because I think I'm using the incorrect voltage, whether it's battery or not taking off my voltage drop or whatever. Anyway, so I sort of just said I wanted to triple my current. It came out with about 20 ohms. Yeah. It's charging perfectly. The downside is it's already smoking. There's a lot more current going through those. But I think we basically worked out that 20 ohms, I'm going to pull that out, 20 ohms is where it's at. So yeah, it said I need around 20 ohms. I've got 22 ohm resistors. I thought, I can have 22 ohms, but then I'm going to have 10 of them. So 220 ohms, I've got 10 of them. Obviously, because we've now got a lower resistance, there's a lot more current going through those. So they are smoking because I've got a sort of a 1/4 watt times 10, which is not a lot, obviously, like 2.5 watts. And we're pushing 0.5 amp at about 50 volts through them, which is a little bit more than that. So yeah, that's about 10 times out, isn't it? So yeah, basically we know the resistance now. We've determined it, so it's about 20 ohms. So I need a 20 ohm resistor that's capable of pushing the required sort of wattage through there. Yeah, which is going to be about 25 watts, isn't it? So above 25 watts, it's kind of like a pre-charge resistor for an EV. That's the kind of thing you would fit. Yeah, sort of 20, 30 ohms, something like that. Yeah, so that's kind of perfect, really. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting that I've hit on the right solution there. We've done it through testing. We've used a bit of calculation. Yeah, and it's just so much easier to learn with practical application. And to be honest, I wish I'd done electronics at university. I did computing at university, and I've been in computing for 10 years, and I've moved into cars. And now I'm pushing into needing to know about electronics, but I'm really tempted to do some kind of course or whatever. You get a book and it's just so droll. It's sort of, can't really learn from a book, you know. It needs to be practical application, training, you know, training with a practical element, that kind of thing would be so much easier. But yeah, just to prove that we've found a solution there, just through a bit of calculation, a bit of testing. I think I'm doing the figures a little bit wrong for the calculation, but we've worked that out. And I'm going to go and buy a 20 ohm resistor. Could be a little bit less, 18 ohms. We could push that to 600, would be okay, to be honest. But 500's nice, so aim for 20 ohm resistor. Nice high wattage. Yeah, and it's all good. So I hope that was interesting, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.